I'm going to start with a bunch of still photos to show you an overview of the process and what things look like. Still photos show you where everything is supposed to run and helps you put things back together correctly. After you drain the carburetor, make sure to tighten the drain screw right away. A cloth under the carburetor will catch screws if you should drop one and catch drips of gas. You can perform a basic cleaning without even taking the carburetor out of the scooter or disconnecting it completely. This saves time. This scooter comes with two different carburetors. Here we have the wall barrel. Once you take the bottom bowl off the carburetor, you got to be careful as these parts are very delicate. In this close-up you can see this carburetor has already been worked on. The main jet and pilot jet are stamped into there. Use these numbers to order the same jet or a slightly larger size if needed. In this case, the carburetor was functioning okay. I did a little basic cleaning, but I found the main clamp on the main fuel line was missing and leaking. I installed the plastic zip tie until I get around to ordering the proper clamp size, which is very small. I loosened both boots, then I kind of wiggled it back and forth and took the carb out. A lot of these parts are super expensive. For example, the auto body starter, or whatever Vespa calls it, this right here is $230. So you need to be extremely careful as you work. Here you can see there's been some leaking. You can see the buildup under here of gas. As soon as you're done draining any carburetor, immediately tighten up and close the drain. Next, I pulled off the fuel feed hose, which goes right there. I noticed that it was missing a clamp. We see that plastic round thing, that's the slide, and it should make a sucking sound, or have some resistance basically. It shouldn't just fall up and down. Many people make the mistake of opening the top here, and I have a carburetor cleaning 3-part series, tell you what to do and what not to do. There's no reason to open this. There's nothing to clean. Don't open these top 2 screws unless you want to change the jet needle, or you suspect the diaphragm is damaged, and the test for that is this will just go up and down with no effort at all, and when you drive it you won't be able to get over like 30 miles an hour. In the manual it said there were 2 different carburetors. This is the wall bar. Over disassemble. Don't just take the body starter off or the throttle cable. And be sure, if you have to do that, that you take pictures and make scratches where appropriate so that you know how things are aligned. This wire is about 25 gauge. I shot carburetor cleaner in here, and then you don't want to get this stuff on the plastic even though it ends up happening. Don't have it on the plastic for very long. You can use some compressed air here. If you have it available, it's really helpful for carburetor cleaning. You can put it in some little passages. Don't go crazy blasting it at real high pressure. But what this does is it causes the carburetor cleaner to evaporate off of the parts very quickly before damage can set in. Another thing is the floats. You see how they work like that? There's a little valve right there, and sometimes that needs to be cleaned if you're having a problem with flooding. If it sticks up just like a toilet, it'll keep filling it with gas until it begins to come out the top or one of the overflow. People seem to have a fetish about taking the floats off, measuring the height. It's very unlikely in my experience that the floats would either get punctured and sink, but that would sure be obvious because there'd be gas inside them, or that the little metal piece that they connect to needs to be bent because they're not sitting at the right height. There's just no way for that to happen unless someone physically damages it when they're cleaning it. I used a tiny amount of this gasket cement, just a little bit. I put it on the gasket right here. And the reason for that was when I turned this upside down to install it, that part of the gasket was lifting, and I was worried about it not being in the groove and leading to a leak. When you put this in, put screws in one at a time, but don't tighten them down. Then pull on each screw a little bit to make sure it's actually threaded in the hole, and then gradually tighten them down till they're even, and then cross tighten them. Snug this one, then the one the opposite side, and same for the other corners. Okay, it's reinstalled. when I put this in, I took this and flipped it up out of the way, this hose. Then I went in here and kind of dipped in like that. And you have to twist it like that, and you got to kind of go, like, tilt it down a little if you can, twist it. Then put your finger under the bottom to make sure the bottom of the carburetor is in the hose, because sometimes it's not, and the hose is just pushed out of the way and you get a leak. And that'll make it run lean. You'll also suck in dirt and stuff like that. Over here, so then I flipped this down, I lifted this up a little, and then I, again, with a little twisting motion like that, twist that on. And then when it comes to tightening them, lift up with one finger and then tighten, and make sure the screws are in a place where they're easy to get it. And snug them up, and when you're not sure if it's tight enough, move the carburetor. If the carburetor can't move because the hose is holding it, and it doesn't slip inside the hose, then it's tight. When you start it, make sure just to do little blips, and then take your throttle and twist it. So just a few seconds, twist a little, because it takes time for fuel to get in the float bowl. And then when you twist the throttle with it off, that works the accelerator pump to pump gas through. So it took me about maybe 3 times of turning it over, or 4 times, and then it started up and it's idling perfect. It's at the high idle because it's cold. Once the idle drops down, that's the warm idle. And so you might need to adjust it. The most important thing at this stage is to check, okay, do you hear that? That's the colder idle now that it's warmed up. The most important thing is to smell for gasoline and look for signs of leaks. Ask yourself some questions. Did you put the bottom hose on for the drain line, and did you tighten the screw? To stay out of trouble, you can add a little bit of this fuel stabilizer. It's very cheap. I bought it at Walmart. It's like, I think, around $5 or something. It'll treat 22 gallons, and it comes with little dispensing.
A quick search online, and I was able to find rebuild kits that were super cheap, and even a complete carburetor replacement. Good luck getting your Vespa back on the road.